My battles have been more individual battles and personal battles and situational battles in regards to my successes and my failures. I didn't have any idea what I was doing when I began to be a cook. I had been fired from a job roofing, and I thought that was a good fucking day until I realized that I had come up with rent real fast. And so I opened up a newspaper, the help wanted area of this newspaper. It wasn't an actual newspaper. It was kind of a place that you go in, you could buy a boat or you could buy a used car or whatever. That's called the Advertiser. And they had an ad for a short order cook, no experience necessary. I circled that thing, tied my hair back, stuck it underneath a sweater that I had from high school, applied for a job in a diner, and lo and behold, they hired me for $3 an hour, and I entered the world of the restaurants. I was aware of the world of restaurants because my mom was in the restaurant world, and she loved it, but it was not a career. It was not anything anybody talked about in my life as far as, this is, be a chef. You could be on TV. You'd be like locked up and put in a wacky bin if people talked that way back in, when I began. And yet there was something very appealing to being in the restaurant atmosphere that I loved. The smell of food, being able to eat food, being able to flirt with waitresses, being able to have a team, be a part of a team, which we were. It was us kind of against them in the sense of not going down for the breakfast shift, not going down for the lunch shift. I started off as a breakfast cook. Then, I still, even though I worked in another restaurant and another restaurant, it's just because I really didn't have skills in anything other than what I was doing. I did like it, but it was not a career. Nobody thought about that in that way. But then subsequently, I had been to Key West and fallen in love with Key West. And then I met my wife-to-be, Janet, in that very first restaurant I was a cook at. And I convinced her to come and live with me in Key West, which we did. And so circling back to the, the ideas of the individual battles and the ups and downs. I'd never been to school. I've never gone to cooking school. And so my life was about learning how to survive on a hotline. I had made up my mind for some reason that this is what I was going to do. And I did it. And I continued to do it in expanding ways, eventually becoming the chef. But what's happened with all of you and you has never happened before. Not in all of the years that any of us are alive, even me. Not by far. Not since, the Spanish flu, right? Not since that. So going back to around 1917, 1918, there's been nothing comparable to it. And our industry has been transformed without us giving it any permission. I'm on the 20th chapter of I don't know how many chapters. You're on chapter 4.
Right.
And I don't mean that in any disrespectful way. I mean that this shit hit you with no playbook, no what do we do now, as it was hitting the rest of not the city, not the state, but the world. You all of you. It just blows my mind what you have had to go through to continue to dream your dream. I didn't have that. I didn't have that cataclysmic event while everybody I knew was also having that cataclysmic event. I had my personal cataclysmic events. I've had restaurants fail. I've had so many amazing incidences that I wrote an entire memoir on that. And I wrote that memoir because I wanted people to understand that the world of restaurants, especially the world of restaurants in America, is much different in the 70s and 80s than they've become. I think we still have a purpose to blow people away. Our purpose is to take people out of the real world for 2 or 3 or 4 hours a day and put them into a world of what if. And so I've dedicated myself to that. But I've often thought in the last, 15, 18 months, what if this would have happened when Norman's, the restaurant in Coral Gables, my first real namesake restaurant, what if this would have happened to me and our team in 1999? The script would not be the script that we know, that I know. My life as I know it would not be my life as it would have been. And I wonder often about all of you and how this is going to transform you, and how this is your depression, this is your World War II, this is your World War I, this is your Vietnam in many ways. And I don't mean that to belittle those tragic events of consequence that were global, but for yourselves, this is, your life will be divided between then and after COVID. Your careers will be divided between that, and how you go about doing business, how you go about creating the atmosphere that you want for your staff, for your guests, for yourself, for your families. We've had a lot of opportunity here in the last number of months to really reflect and figure out what is important. And, my hat's off to all of you to have had to maintain as best you could your ideals, and yet know that there were times where you had to squeeze your food into a box and put it in a car and say goodbye to it, rather than have it sent over to a table on a tray from a beautiful heart from a person. For you all to transition from what you were doing 2 years ago to what we're doing during the pandemic, heartbreaking, but you've survived. We've all of us that have been fortunate enough to survive have survived it. The question is now, what are we going to do going forward? What is going to be the nature of the hospitality business going forward?